Blake Lively is not a good person, that she has proven herself not to be a kind person, okay? Which means that she grew up wealthy, her life has been perfect, and so she has to create struggle where there just isn't any.
What happens when Hollywood's golden girl gets caught playing dirty? Blake Lively has spent years curating a perfect family-friendly image, and Candace Owens just ripped that apart with receipts. Accusations, PR games, and a messy court battle. This scandal has it all. Is this just another case of Hollywood deception, or has Lively finally been exposed for who she really is?
Baldoni. Lively accused him and a producer of sexual harassment while they worked on the movie It Ends With Us.
Justin Baldoni found himself at the center of a Hollywood firestorm when allegations of sexual harassment and misconduct surfaced. The accusations, which seemed to come out of nowhere, were heavily pushed by Blake Lively, who positioned herself as the victim in this entire ordeal. The timing couldn't have been more convenient. Just as Baldoni's career was gaining momentum, an explosive story painted him as the villain. It all started with Lively filing a formal complaint in December 2024, and within a day, the New York Times ran a detailed report framing her as a tragic heroine caught in a Hollywood nightmare. That wasn't a coincidence, it was a carefully planned media move.
The New York Times obtained the complaint, which includes Lively accusing Baldoni of improvised unwanted kissing, among other things.
Lively's allegations gained traction fast. Major media outlets ran with the story. Hollywood feminists rallied behind her, and the Me Too movement reignited with new energy. For a moment, it seemed like Baldoni was done. Lively's PR team made sure her image stayed spotless. A woman bravely speaking out, a mother protecting her career, a feminist icon fighting injustice. And for a hot minute, it worked. People bought into it. After all, why would the New York Times publish something if it wasn't true? But then Candace Owens stepped in. She did what the mainstream media refused to. She dug deeper. And what she found didn't just poke holes in Lively's claims. It ripped them apart. Suddenly, everything about the case started to look suspicious, and the perfectly controlled narrative began to crumble and fall apart.
They were spiking the ball. They had the New York Times doing their dirty work. They were like girl marching with Taylor Swift. Everything was going their way for 2 years. They almost got this movie out of Justin Baldoni and Wayfarer Studios.
First, she went straight for the New York Times metadata and discovered something suspicious. The timing of their article exposing Baldoni lined up perfectly with Lively's lawsuit, almost as if it was all planned in advance. That's not just a coincidence, that's a PR move. Owens started connecting the dots and found that Lively's team might have actually paid media outlets to push the story and control the public narrative.
Because these rumors were swirling around, Sony came out and they said there were no HR complaints that were made.
Then there were the HR complaints against Baldoni. When these surfaced, they looked serious, until Owens got her hands on them. The documents were filled with redactions, missing key details like dates and complaints' names. If these complaints were legit, why were they so vague? And here's where it gets even crazier. Major media outlets like TMZ and the Daily Mail, which never shy away from a scandal, refused to publish the complaints. That says a lot. But the biggest twist? Owens suggested that Blake Lively wasn't working alone. The whole thing wasn't just about taking down Baldoni, it was about maintaining Lively's perfect image at all costs. Owens exposed the cracks in the story, and suddenly Hollywood wasn't so sure which side to believe anymore.
Brian Schwartz writes, Khaleesi and Deadpool pulling a very expensive publicity stunt. Maybe? Yep, I would say they were, and it was about just wrangling the rights.
According to Owens, Ryan Reynolds was allegedly right there with her, making sure the narrative went exactly the way they wanted. According to Candace Owens, Reynolds wasn't just being the supportive husband, he was actively involved in pushing the allegations against Justin Baldoni behind the scenes. Hollywood PR is a game of chess, and Reynolds, with his powerful connections, was moving the pieces.
The brilliant PR decision to hit the red carpet for Saturday Night Live's big 50th anniversary.
One of the biggest claims against him is that he helped control Lively's PR response, making sure that she stayed ahead of the scandal. He knows how Hollywood works. Timing is everything. The moment Lively's lawsuit was filed, the couple was on PR watch, almost as if it had been pre-planned. Owens pointed out that this behavior wasn't an organic movement, it was carefully constructed. Then came in the independent journalists, TikTok influencers and content creators who suddenly started pushing the same anti-Baldoni narrative. Owens claims that this was also no accident. When the mainstream media wouldn't bite, Lively and Reynolds allegedly turned to social media to do the job. If you flood TikTok and Twitter with the same accusations, people start believing it no matter how flimsy the evidence is. Reynolds and Lively knew how to play the PR game, and for a while it worked. But as more details surfaced, their version of events started to look less like the truth and more like a Hollywood power play. And according to Owens, they weren't the only ones involved. Bigger players in the industry were pulling strings to shape public perception, making the scandal even more twisted.
He is the CEO of WME. That is the agency that is involved in this lawsuit. Obviously, the agency that instantly dropped Justin Baldoni when she filed.
Hollywood isn't just about talent, it's about power. And one of the most powerful players in the game is Ari Emanuel, the super agent who runs Endeavor, the agency that basically controls half of Hollywood. When a scandal like this breaks, someone like Emanuel isn't just watching from the sidelines. He's actively shaping how the story plays out in the media. Some believe he had a hand in making sure Lively's accusations against Baldoni landed at just the right moment, aligning with her career moves and keeping her in the public's good graces. This is just how Hollywood works. PR firms don't just manage damage control, they create narratives. If a celebrity is at risk of bad press, their team finds a way to shift focus, sometimes by throwing somebody else under the bus. In this particular case, Baldoni was the perfect scapegoat. His reputation was still rising, he didn't have the same PR power as Lively and Reynolds, and one well-placed story could turn him into a villain overnight. But this isn't just about Baldoni though, it's about how Hollywood operates as a whole. The industry has a long history of using PR manipulation to control scandals, protect big names, and destroy reputations when necessary. It's not about truth, it's about who has the most influence. But as the media firestorm raged on, Baldoni decided to fight back, legally. His lawsuit against the New York Times exposed even more shocking details.
Start with Baldoni's lawsuit against the New York Times. The Times, as Liz just pointed out there, has said they're going to vigorously defend their reporting.
Justin Baldoni has filed a massive $250 million defamation lawsuit against the New York Times, accusing them of pushing a false narrative to support Blake Lively. And thanks to Candace Owens' deep analysis of the metadata, he had receipts. Her findings proved that Lively's team had strategically timed the lawsuit and media coverage to frame Baldoni in the worst possible way. Once that information got out, public opinion started shifting. People who once supported Lively started questioning the whole thing. Lively's team, clearly feeling the heat, took a different approach. They went after Baldoni's digital footprint. And when I say digital footprint, I mean everything. They demanded access to his emails, his text messages, his browsing history, and even his old phone records. It was insane. This wasn't about proving their case anymore, it was about finding anything that could be used against him. And Baldoni's lawyers called it for exactly what it was, a fishing expedition. Meanwhile, Baldoni's lawyer, Brian Friedman, wasn't backing down. He pointed out that Lively's accusations didn't meet the legal definition of sexual harassment or assault, and that the entire case was built on a carefully crafted media strategy rather than actual evidence. As the case dragged on, it became clear that this wasn't just a legal battle, it was a full-blown PR war. Hollywood's PR machine went into overdrive, scrambling to control the damage. But with Owens exposing their tactics and Baldoni refusing to back down, it was clear that this scandal wasn't going to be easy for Lively to recover from.